Well, welcome back to the Coastal Gardener for our October edition. I'm Hight, your host here each month. And in case you haven't noticed it, the weather's changing outside. Things are getting a little cooler, the night's a little longer, and that means some big changes in the garden. So this month we're going to tell you about how to keep some color coming in the garden through the fall and winter, maybe some of the problems you might be dealing with, and a few other good garden tips to go along with that. To start it off though, we have Charlotte Glenn, who's our Cooperative Extension Horticulture Agent from over in Pender County. And Charlotte's here to tell us about how to keep some color coming in the garden in the fall and winter. Charlotte, welcome.
Thank you.
We're here at the Arboretum. We're going to actually get out and plant something today, believe it or not. But tell us a little bit about, well, is this a good time to plant?
This is. It's a wonderful time to plant, whether you're talking about perennials, trees and shrubs, and also the cool season annuals that are so readily available at garden centers at this time of the year.
Well, most people know mums, most people know pansies. We've got some other examples here, but hey, let's start with a mum. That's what everybody knows, Charlotte. So what do you think about planting garden mums at this time of year?
Well, this is the time of the year that mums are everywhere, and they certainly are beautiful. You can't beat the color and just the instant impact they give any location. They're great if you just want to bring some color into a site, but it's not really a plant that's going to be long-term for you. When you buy your mums, you want to try to look for some that the buds are still closed so that you have a longer time for them to color up. But even at that point, 3, maybe 4 weeks would be the most you could expect to get out of them color-wise. And then some people may be tempted to put them into the garden. You can do that, but they don't really perform well as perennials. So they're much more of a plant used just for some fall impact. If you have a fall scene set up or want to use them in a centerpiece at a party or something like that.
So good short-term color
Yes,
like
that's
that
right.
from the garden mum. I see you've got some vegetables there. We normally don't think too much about ornamental vegetables, but we do have some of those, don't we?
That's right, especially when we get into the cooler times of the year. We've got some more options to look at. This is a giant red mustard, and it's not looking terribly red right now, but as the temperatures get cooler, it will darken up and be quite spectacular. It'll also grow a lot more. It's fairly small right now, but this will be a plant that'll be about 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
And it's really nice, mixed with pansies and other cool season plants. And another thing is it's quite spicy, so it is a true mustard.
So you can eat it.
You can eat it. It's quite spicy, but it's one thing that the deer and rabbits tend to avoid because of that spiciness.
Every time I plant that, it grows so large. It grows larger than I thought it was going to grow.
Yeah,
so
it'll surprise you.
It takes a lot of space, but so you got some parsley there too.
Yep, we also have parsley, and this is the time of the year to plant parsley, whether you want to grow it as an herb or as an ornamental, and we're seeing it used more and more as an ornamental. This is a small plant, but of course it's going to grow, and once you get a lot of this crispy foliage, it does have a nice texture and mixes nice with pansies and other plants.
You can garnish all your food dishes in the process.
That's right.
Well, probably when I think of ornamental vegetables, the cabbages and the kales are the ones that really kind of got that started, aren't they? What do you think about some of those?
That's right, and there's lots of varieties of ornamental cabbage and kale available. They're good plants, especially for the fall. They give you a real nice show in the fall, right on through Christmas. Once you get into the new year, especially we start getting maybe some warmer weather in February, they don't tend to last as long, and they'll go to flower and just start to look kind of yucky at that time of the year.
But it might be a good way to get something going on in the fall and then have something to fall back on in the spring when they kind of don't get so pretty.
Yeah.
Well, before we go to the pansies, which everybody knows about pansies and violas, but we have a couple of others here. One old-timey favorite of snapdragon, of course. A little yellow one here that's probably a dwarf, probably a little too small for some of these, but tell us what you think about snapdragons for this time of year.
Well, snapdragons are great. People that are new to our area may be used to planting snapdragons in summer. But here in the southeast, they work much better as cool season annuals. Plant them in the fall. They'll give you some color in the fall, some flowers. They tend to not be blooming very well in the middle of winter, December, January, but as soon as we start getting warmer temperatures toward the end of February, they want to come back up and start blooming. They'll bloom quite spectacularly right on up through April and even into May sometimes.
And they give you that little vertical accent in a container. I've seen them used like that. It's pretty nice if you get some of the bigger ones like that. We have one more here before we get to those pansies, of course. We have these dianthus. Interesting little Picotee-style bloom and some of the others that you see here. Is that a good plant for us to use here?
It is, and once again, as a cool season annual, these dianthus, sometimes called China pinks, they're another one that people maybe used to play planting in the summer, but they do better for us in the fall, and they give you some color in the fall and then again in the spring. And both the dianthus and the snapdragons will occasionally perform as perennials. They may persist a couple of years if they're really happy in your garden.
Don't get that really cold winter, we'll be okay on that
Yeah.
one. Well, nothing probably gives you more color longer than the pansies and the violas. So lots of new colors coming out in pansies. I see them all in the magazines, but what do you suggest on pansies?
Well, I suggest choosing colors you like because there's certainly a huge variety out there. If you are going for something that's really going to give you a lot of impact in the landscape, I would try to stick with some of the smaller or medium flowered varieties. Everybody likes the majestic giants, those ones with the
Big
huge,
flowers.
great big flowers, but they don't stand up as well to the weather, to frost, to rain. They get to looking kind of ratty. So if you go with the medium flowered varieties like the deltas and the accords, and also the newer viola type pansies with the little tiny flowers, they really will keep going through the winter very nicely.
And give us a big show next spring, too.
That's right.
Right before it starts getting really hot. Well, these are my favorites as far as the ones that don't have the faces or the blotches, but that's just me. Well, we've talked a little bit about some of the plants we can use, Charlotte. How would we incorporate these into a typical landscape?
Well, the best way to use annuals is to have a designated area, and that's where you're going to be putting annuals. It needs to be a location that you want to have interest all the time. You want to have color, because that's what annuals give you, color all year round. A lot of times people may want to just stick a few here, a few there, and just sprinkle them all over the landscape, but you just don't get a lot of impact that way. So make an area, designate an area of your bed that's going to be your little annual portion. And then in the spring you can plant things, and then when we get to the fall you can plant things like pansies.
Well, how about exposure, sun, shade, and all of that? What do these plants need?
Well, almost all of our annuals need good drainage. So you want to be in an area that the soil does drain well. If you're just limited with really poor drainage or working with a lot of tree roots, then you could try using containers. That works well. So good drainage, and you also want to find somewhere that is getting as much sun as there can be in the winter. The days are shorter.
Short days, yeah. Not going to do real well in the shade.
Right, yeah. They're going to be kind of drawn and sickly looking.
Yeah, need plenty of sun to keep those flowers coming. What about the soil, as far as amending the soil? What do we need to do?
This is really important, and probably one thing that's most commonly overlooked is getting your soil ready. These annuals are plants that have a fairly limited root system, so you need to do a lot of work getting that soil ready, having it nice and soft. If it's easy for you to dig in, it'll be easy for the plants to grow. Add some kind of organic matter to the soil, so any kind of compost, whether you make it at home or you purchase it, mix that into the soil well. Slow release fertilizers are wonderful because they give you a consistent feed over a long time rather than just a sudden jolt and then they're gone.
Something like Osmocote or some of the other brand names that we use. So we're going to choose it right, choose the right site, and hopefully get that soil prepared just right, and we'll have some great success. Well, Charlotte, let's go out and see if we can't play in the dirt a little bit.
All right.
Charlotte, we got our pansies planted, got some fertilizer under them. What do we need to do now?
Now we just need to give them a good water, get them nice and settled in, and put a nice layer of mulch on them. That'll help hold the moisture in and keep weeds from coming up.
So what about that fertilizer we put? Is that going to be enough to keep them going all winter?
That should be. That's a time-release fertilizer. It releases nutrients over 3 to 4 months, and you can purchase those in different grades. So some are 3 to 4 months, some are 5 to 6 months.
So we're in good shape. We just need to sit back and enjoy it, huh?
That's right.
Well, thanks, Charlotte. Charlotte Glenn, who's our cooperative extension agent over in Pender County, giving us some great tips for keeping some color coming in the garden. Speaking of colorful foliage, our plant of the month this month has some great burgundy color, and we're going to show you that, our Loropetalum, or Chinese fringe flower. We're also going to show you a disease problem that's really wreaking havoc in some of our lawns when we come back.